to start with a round of introductions. There's our recording. So my name is Simone. I'm from the JobStarter team. JobStarter is a virtual career coach for young people. So we aim to promote the employability and well-being of young people who are transitioning into either employment opportunities or into further education opportunities. To our business partners, we offer a free online recruitment portal where you can match whatever your job requirements are to what young talent is out there. As I mentioned, this series of conversations is a collaboration with an incredible organization called Youth Capital. Youth Capital is a youth-led advocacy campaign that aims to reduce youth unemployment with the implementation of a shared agenda. So in 2020, Youth Capital launched their action plan, which is really grounded in young people's experience, which makes it an incredibly unique action plan. And it provides a shared agenda to tackle youth unemployment. As part of the plan, Youth Capital identified this disconnect between young people, small businesses, and existing opportunities. And so we kind of came together, JobStarter and Youth Capital have come together to host these sessions, to bring together different stakeholders to talk about this issue and try and figure out some practical solutions that we can share with the sector. Of course, we have our incredible panelists joining us today. We are very fortunate to have such a great number of panelists with us. We have Trevor Clark from Action Coach, who has a very impressive proven track record of providing various types of support to small businesses to help them grow. We have Wam Matlakana from the Maker Movement. Wam is an entrepreneur, runs his own business, but he also has incredible experience of what it's like to really have to enter a very steep and fast learning curve to starting from the bottom to getting to where he is today. So we really look forward to hearing and learning from his experiences. We also have Niznande Machi from Lucha Lanako. Lucha Lanako is another fantastic organization, a youth development organization who aim to build pathways for young people into decent work through partnerships, collaboration, and innovation. Lastly, but certainly not least, we have Daphne Klepp, who is the director, franchisee, and principal of Rawson Properties, Parklands, Tableview, and Atlantis. She has great experience in working with young people from those different areas, and she brings a real passion for inclusive business practice. So we really look forward to getting her input today as well. Before we start with our questions, just to give a bit of background on today's topic and why we chose this particular topic. So JobStarter over the last few months has been talking to various small businesses to try and find out a bit more about their experience of working with young people. We know that small businesses are one of the largest employers of young people. And so we really wanted to understand what their experiences are, but particularly what some of the pain points are when it comes to working with young people. And what emerged from our conversations is that while there's this incredible willingness to provide job opportunities to young people, there remain some very real challenges that make it difficult for SMEs to go out and hire and work with young people, or that prevent them from getting the most out of the young people that they've already hired. And so we're here to tackle this issue, to try and understand it a little bit better, but to also discuss some very practical solutions that can help small businesses to work more effectively with young people that they look to employ. So with that, Trevor, I'd like to start with you today. We know that youth unemployment rates in the country are at unprecedented levels, but outside of this as a motivator to try and employ young people, why should small businesses employ young people? What is the business benefit?
Brilliant, and thanks, Simone. Thanks for having me on the call, and nice to meet the rest of the panelists. It's so great to be with a group of people that have a kind of shared vision and trying to address such a critical issue in our country. So, and you're 100% right. There's, what I do for a living is I work with business owners and I help them grow their businesses. And how do you grow a business? You've got to build a team. There's only so much that one person can do. So the theory is, if you work an 8-hour day, any extra person you bring on board, you get an extra 8 hours of productivity and results that you can achieve. Obviously, senior people hiring more junior people, the junior people aren't going to get the same results. You might not get 8 hours, you might get 4 hours or what have you. But that's how we grow businesses. You might have heard that saying, you don't build a business, you build a team and let the team build it for you. But the challenge, obviously, where people have is, are we geared for that? Are we good at hiring? Do we know how to hire the right people? Do we also know how to set those people up for success? And most small business owners are struggling in a lot of different areas, and bringing in things like recruitment, mentorship, training, that sort of thing is just so many balls to juggle. So I think it's just an important one. It's not just the right thing to do, is helping people get their career path, but it's about helping people help people. I think it's so great that you've got this discussion underway. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Trevor. And I think that really came through quite strongly in the conversations we had with a lot of SMEs, was this acknowledgement of the potential value that hiring young people could bring. Something that a lot of SMEs were less clear on, and Ms. Nandi, I'd love to bring you in here to speak to some of the incentives that are available for small businesses, so that we know there are a lot of those that have been made available to try and encourage small businesses to access, to employ young people. If you could talk us through what some of those are.
Yes, sure, absolutely. Hello, everybody who is on the call. I think it's important to start there. I'm Nizenande, so feel free as we go to speak directly to me as well. So just to answer Simone's question more specifically, I think Trevor did a good job in just highlighting the general benefits, of young people in business. I'm a young person myself. On the tail end, I'm very, very close to 35. But I still count as youth in South Africa. However, there's a lot of benefits that relate in particular to BEE, as well as we'll call it financial/tax, that a lot of SME owners are not aware of. So when we're looking at broad-based Black economic empowerment benefits and schemes that are in place, there's something to be said around skills development. So there's financial incentives, or the Skills Development Act, that allows for workplace opportunities for Black people in particular. But of course, youth then is an added benefit, or Black youth in this regard. Then there are two I guess, really pervasive tools and vehicles, let's call them vehicles in the marketplace. One of them is learnerships, and another one is Yes Youth. So Yes Youth is a form of a learnership, but learnerships and internships are strongly incentivized. So you can have a learner that is placed in your organization, and there is a donor who covers their stipend or their salary. And then there's also a Yes Youth placement, which is part of the government's or the president's youth placement and job placement opportunity, where Yes Youth partners with different kinds of donors, and then you as a small business can be a host. We have quite a number of Yes Youth in Lucha, and in actually another organization that I do run. So you place a learner, again, their salary is covered, and you as the small business owner, because the reality is, as small business owners, a lot of the time we don't have money to hire. And so getting someone to cover that salary is really a big load off your shoulders, and it's often a stipend, nothing too major. So those are really the main BE benefits. And then I want to do the tax benefits. So there's something that's called, there's a lot of legality around the tax stuff. So I'll just give high level information. There's something called the Youth Wage Subsidy, or ETI, which allows up to about 1,000 Rand a month deduction against PAYE if you employ a young person, which is a great tool for a small business owner. Again, they're really trying to hit us at the heart of where we struggle, which is cash and cash flow, right? So there's the youth wage subsidy, and then you can get tax deductions. It's a little bit complicated, but for learnerships, you can get tax deductions of up to 34,000 Rand a year as a small business owner. And then there's BE contributions, which when in my other business, when we were a startup, we really benefited from. So it's just little pockets of money that you have to do very specific things with. So they say you have to possibly hire 1 or 2 youth members and do some technological advancements in your business. So whatever it might be, that are part of, again, supplier enterprise development work under the BE codes. So yeah, I mean, loosely, that's what I would speak about, Simone.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. I mean, that's such a helpful outline of what's broadly available. And I think it would be great to just pick up at the end, you know, who people listening can connect with to try and to try and access some of those incentives you've spoken about. I'd like to go to Wam now, just to get your feedback on, I mean, hearing all of these benefits and incentives that are available, you would think that small businesses would be hiring young people en masse, but we know that this isn't necessarily the case. What, based on your experience, Wam, are some of the challenges in working with young people?
Hi guys, my name is Wam Magazana. I am coming from the Maker model, and I am also a small business owner. I am running BGR, which is a beggar joint. Okay, and let me just chip into your question, Simone. So just a little bit more about me is I've worked 5 years for BGR for me to become an owner operator of this small business that is in Pretoria. So I didn't come here with all the experience on how to run the business. I've learned everything through the 5-year journey. So I have more hands-on experience with young people in small businesses and the challenges that we have. So what I have seen or experienced over the years is there's this mentality that business owners have, and rather maybe I would say the country that we have, because I'm in many groups, and the language and the communication that I hear is the same. So people, they want to hire young people and train them to become the best at what they're supposed to be doing, not rather than develop them to become business owners. And the problem does not only sit with the employer, it also sits within the ranks of the business. So you would have a manager who feels threatened when you hire a young person and you're willing to teach them about business, and they feel the threat that, you know, one day they might lose their position to this young person that has joined the business. And with that in their mind, then they start to create an atmosphere, or rather an environment, where it becomes toxic, and young people now don't see the challenges and fun of being in that business. As a result, they just there to make money, and one day they would just decide not to show up at work, and you start having these bad behaviors that young people start to demonstrate in your business. And that is all an issue of the labor model, if I can say. If we can start changing that labor model such that it makes young people feel challenged and excited to go to work, because they will learn something that will benefit them one day. Remember, to start a business does not only require finances. Yes, it does. You need money to open a business, but you need skills, you need knowledge, and that knowledge you can learn it practically in a business rather than behind a desk somewhere at school or somewhere in a classroom, if you guys understand. So the challenges with young people, it's not only that their behavior, but it starts from an employer down to the senior people in the organization, and then it affects them. And then as a result, you will see lots of people dropping out at work, and you ask yourself why, and people are not happy. So yeah, that's what I've experienced over the years.
Thanks so much for that, Wam. I really appreciate your response, because it provided some nuance on some of the challenges. Because I think, and what we heard in some of our conversations with small businesses is some of the frustrations you touched on. So perhaps people not arriving, or people arriving late, but as you've described, that's often a consequence of how a young person is perhaps experiencing an environment. which is to not just then write off hiring young people because those are the behaviors you're seeing there, but to rather try and understand why you're seeing those behaviors. Trevor, just off of what Wam has described, some of these very practical challenges of working with young people, but also some of the possible causes of those challenges, what other factors do you think are at play that make it difficult for small businesses to get the most out of young people and for young people to really thrive in those environments?
Yeah, I think I like what Wam said, and I echo that a lot, where a lot of people are nervous of hiring because they're worried about making themselves redundant or being overlapped or overtaken by the person you hire. But I think that's very much a corporate sort of mentality. A lot of the big corporates are like that, where people like to protect their place on the ladder and fight everybody below them and try and make yourselves indispensable. If I'm working with business owners, I'm trying to make them indispensable. If you own the business, you want to be indispensable. You want your team to overtake you because they can run the business for you and you can actually do other things. So the better people you hire, the best. I think so it is about that. The better talent you hire, you surround yourselves with people that can take that business forward. I think that's probably an important one. Is there's two distinctions. There's a different criteria, I guess, in hiring in the corporate space. Big corporates, big firms have dedicated HR departments. They've got dedicated pay salaries, pay scales. They've got induction programs, training programs, and there's probably a more natural progression. And usually there's higher salary scales as well. So I think that's probably why there's a bigger waiting list of people graduate or finish with a school or a tertiary education. There's usually a long queue of people trying to get into the corporate space because of the perceived benefits. Whereas again, similar to what Wam was saying, is in the small space. And I think a lot of good candidates don't often knock on the doors of small, medium-sized businesses, assuming that there's less opportunity there. And yes, maybe the career ladder might not be as long, but in a big business, you get a job, you'll probably sit in one desk and do one thing for the course of a year and you learn one skill. Whereas in a small, medium-sized business, you're going to have to be a lot more versatile and you're going to learn a lot more. Chances are the salary won't be that good because a lot of small businesses are really struggling with cash flow at the moment. Well, historically, cash flow is a challenge with businesses, and over the last year or two, that's become heightened. So I think it's about candidates being more flexible in terms of what they're willing to look for. But importantly, and a lot of the work you guys are doing is around those entry-level positions. And I think that's the key point for a lot of people, is just getting that first job, whatever it is. And that's where you can prove yourself. People I work with and a lot of entrepreneurs, they believe this innately, is that when you're hiring, you hire for attitude and you train for skill. You don't need the best CV out there. The people that have got the right attitude, the energy, the commitment, that say, I don't care what job you give me, I'm going to prove myself, and then you'll escalate me through your organization. And that's what we're looking for, and that's what my clients are looking for when they're hiring, is those people that say, just give me that chance. And there's so many people out there that want that chance. But I think it's just that mismatch of where people will find each other. But my father always put it really well. He says, cream rises to the top. And I think that's the thing, is if you get that first job, show what you can do, the right employer, not all employers, will invest in you, train you, mentor you, and grow you through the organization, regardless of how big the organization is. But I think also we live in that world now where we're not in a one job for life world. Some of the stats we hear internationally is that the average stay in a job is between 1 to 2 years. So if that's the reality, if people are going to top jobs, that's fine. Let's make sure we get the most out of the people that work for us in the time they're there. But at the same time, if they can help our organization become that little bit better, let's help those people grow their careers. So even if somebody is only with us temporarily, that's absolutely fine. I love it where there's people that I've worked with over the years and they've gone back and said, thanks, you just helped me for that one period and just helped me get that next step up. So yeah, it is this conundrum of a mismatch of trying to help all stakeholders.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for sharing again and just emphasizing that distinction between big corporates who kind of have the resources and HR capacity versus, the smaller guys who don't, but perhaps have have a richer experience to offer entry-level workers. Just to pick up on what you spoke about, you know, this idea of the value and the importance for small business owners to really invest in the development of their team. How challenging or how easy has it been to land that concept and to prioritize people development when a lot of small businesses are in survival mode? I think, again, this was something that came up in our conversations. Is I know it's important. I appreciate that it would add a lot of value to my business, but I just don't have the capacity right now. I've got other priorities that are burning.
Yeah, it's that age-old maxim in business, big and small. You know, when times are tight, what do people cut? They cut the marketing budgets and they cut the HR and training budgets. And sadly, those are probably arguably two of the most important. You know, without marketing, how are you going to get more customers? And without training, mentorship, development, how are you going to get the most out of your people? There's a lovely one I heard the other day. They say, because you often hear people say this, you know, if I train my team, they're going to leave. But think about the consequence. What if you don't train them, but they stay? That could be just as bad.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thanks for that. I mean, I think that is also, yeah, I suppose part of the work that you do is trying to educate really on the mindset shift that's required to really invest in the long term of your business and not just focus on kind of the short term needs as burning as they are. I think, Daphne, I'd like to go to you just to ask your, I mean, you've got incredible practical experience of recruiting and working with young people in different communities. What has your experience been of working with young people? You know, both some of the challenges and the successes that you've seen.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. And gosh, it's wonderful to be on such an esteemed panel, such fabulous input, and thank you all. Yes, I'm in the residential real estate market. So the staff that I work with are residential sales agents, rental agents, and administrators. Now, in the past, when people came into real estate, sort of in 80s, 90s and before, you know, they'd come in, maybe do it as a part-time job, etc., have something else that they were doing, and they were able to carry themselves through. One of our biggest challenges to youth in the real estate industry at the moment is the barrier to entry. Because if you want to become a real estate agent, you are told you have to have income for 6 months to keep yourself going. You have to have a car, you have to have a laptop, and you have to have a cell phone. Now, even if you're a professional leaving university and you're about to become an attorney, you know, somebody's going to tell you you can't get any income for 6 months. That's a big challenge. And it's keeping out youth, it's keeping out so many people, and we really need diversity in our industry. So there are solutions, but I think so many people say, oh, I'm not even going to try because I don't know what the solution is. I've always maintained that you cannot find a solution if you don't know what the challenge is. And you need to engage with people, find out what a challenge is, and help to solve that. It really isn't a big deal. As Trevor said, you know, it's about attitude. You can train for tools. And if you've got your policies and procedures in place, you can do that. So I want to share just a couple practical examples. I had a young lady join me many years ago, early 20s, a single mom, and she was working in a shop and she wanted to get ahead. And she came to me because we were looking for a receptionist. And I thought, okay, great, there's so much we can learn. Now, definite challenges. Single mom, had to look at travel, etc., wanted to look ahead at the real estate industry, but of course needed a monthly income. So we looked, and again, like many of the panelists have said, we can't think old school. Why must somebody come in and just be a real estate agent? Why can we not combine jobs? Job descriptions, you might have different jobs over your career, but also within a job, you can have different job descriptions. So we started her as a receptionist. Very quickly, she became an administrator. We assisted her with a training to become a real estate agent. During the period she was with me, she had twins with a long-term partner. It's now years later. The twins are in grade 1. She has qualified as a real estate agent and is running my Atlantis team of estate agents. And within the next couple of years, she too will become a principal and franchisee. I have one of the most hardworking, loyal, amazing women working for me. The challenges became the biggest successes. I also had folks like some of the panelists mentioned. I think, Trevor, you were saying, there's a concern somebody's going to come in and leave me. I've had 2 excellent administrators who stayed with me only for 3 years. When they came in, they needed an income, so they worked as administrators, but they were also studying. I knew that they were not going to be with me long because they were looking to qualify. During those 3 years, I had the best administrators, passionate about the job, excellent at teamwork, thinking out the box, above and beyond, giving their all. And they are now attorneys. One is a conveyancer, and we actually work with her as a conveyancer, and the other is a litigator. Other youth who have come through bring so much. We do not know what we do not know, and there's so much we can learn from the youth. So I would say to those out there, and as Anandi mentioned, all the fabulous incentives that are available. Our perceptions about what the problems are, about how do people answer the phone, we can teach them that. If you've got your policies and procedures in place, bring folks to the table. You will learn so much and your business will grow. We all know the stats. A diverse board, a diverse team gives the biggest profit. Not just on your bottom line, not just on to make the accountant happy, but just as individuals and as a business and as a community.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Daphne. I think it's so powerful to hear practical examples and people not just talking theoretically about the issue and how important it is. And those are such incredible success stories you've shared. I think perhaps for a lot of people listening, and certainly for myself, I'm wondering what enabled you to support those young people in thriving in your business? So what are some of the things that you did that enabled them to thrive?
I think the biggest thing that I've learned in business is one of the biggest lessons is not to assume. You cannot assume, as I mentioned before, that you know the answers if you don't even know the questions. There has to be open dialogue. If somebody is looking for employment, why are they looking? What are they looking for? Are they looking for a job to provide income? Are they looking to grow? That's great. There's always a position for somebody who wants to be in a position and stay there. Absolutely. But if somebody wants to grow, assist them. How? Don't just assume I can't give this person an opportunity because, oh, what about transport? What about this? What about that? What about timekeeping? Together, you can solve the problems. And you often find you're busy thinking, oh, gosh, what's the solution? The person in front of you who you're looking to hire has got all the solutions. We're sitting at the moment, I'll give you another example. So if the barrier to entry is car, laptop, cell phone, 6-month income, there's no reason that person cannot earn a basic potentially as an administrator or in a position that you've got in the job, in the business, which we do. So many things are online at the moment. Agents aren't driving clients around in their cars, and we have to mentor people. And for the first year, as they trainee agents, put them with somebody else. Well, they can go in that car to viewings and valuations with the mentor. With regards to laptops, everybody's got a smartphone. There's so much that you can do on your smartphone and use the office computer when you're in the office. Wi-Fi, not everybody has Wi-Fi or access to the finances for the Wi-Fi. The reality is Wi-Fi is so cheap. As a business, what I did I've got 3 agents in Atlantis who I've got 250 Rand per month. They have a cell phone, smartphone, and Wi-Fi. And I have 3 excellent agents, absolutely dedicated, who are all available. If you discuss with people, you will find out that they can bring the solutions to the table, and you will have a stronger, better team and an excellent business.
Sure, that's such valuable advice, and I think advice again that theoretically we all believe, but incredible to hear how you've been able to actually put that into practice. I think a lot of what you've been speaking about, Ms. Nande, ties in with the work of Lucha Lanako and the approach to young people as being assets, as being, you know, full of potential that needs to be accessed. Ms. Nande, I'm just wondering, based on your experience, what are some of the things that you think business can do to make young people thrive, to be able to surface that latent potential?
Sure, Simone. I'm very happy to respond. I do want to perhaps segue from Daphne's contribution. I enjoy it. I enjoyed it. Thank you, Daphne. Although there are some parts of it, and one specific one that I do want to challenge when it comes to young people and also planning for young people. I think exceptionalism can be very dangerous, especially in South Africa, where there is a historical under-resourcing and disenfranchising of young Black South Africans in particular, but younger ones. And why exceptionalism becomes a challenge is because we tend to build stories that frame a reality or a theoretical underpinning that the exception is the rule, and it is not. It is a big deviation from the rule. The reason I say it in this country is we are sitting with a youth unemployment rate of 62%. The expanded definition starting from age 15 is 74.4%. What that means is that 7 in 10 young people are unemployed in this country. Now, that is a legacy degradation of the young Black youth. What I mean by legacy degradation is you are not working. There's value from waking up and going to work. There's first that value. Just waking up, getting into some version of a routine and going into work. Then there is also the passive reasons, or the passive ways that you are denigrated or abased, maybe debased in some instances, but unemployment and poverty begets poverty, right? Is if I'm not working, I'm not eating. If I'm not eating, I'm unable to think. If I'm unable to think very well, I don't want to make it a slippery slope in case I run the risk of being flippant and reckless. But I do want to paint a picture of what is the pervasive problem in this country. And so the responsibility that I believe that we have is twofold as business owners. We have to plan and reconcile within ourselves that the reality of the young people we will be working with are at the majority, and preferably plan for the majority. Plan for the person who possibly has not seen in generations people going to work, right? Someone doesn't know that if you're going to be late, say I'm going to be late. Someone who doesn't have clothes to wear. These are the realities that we have seen. Someone who doesn't have the data. I love that contribution that Daphne made. Someone who doesn't have the data or the airtime or the transport. What we discovered, we were running a kind of like a focus group. We do that often with lots of young people in our fold to understand their realities. And we're finding that the big majority of probably 50, 60% of some stipends were going to transport, right? As a person's climbing 3 taxis from the Vaal to a learnership in Parktown, great. Sorry, this is in Joburg, or just a number of kilometers away. That's all their money gone in a month. So really, it's a cycle then of creating the illusion of giving people money when you're actually not helping them alleviate the pressures. Many are child-headed households. So we really as employers need to become very intimate with the realities that young people are facing so that the solutions that we provide are very well linked to those solutions, as those realities, as uncomfortable and hard as it may be. For example, in one of that small business that I told you about, which I don't manage daily, we had to start buying noodles, cereal, milk, rolls, because bread is a little too vulnerable, but there were many young people who would come and didn't have food. And we didn't make it a thing. It was anyone who's hungry, guys, there's some things, you know, we all forget sometimes our lunch. And it became a part of the budget. It's uncomfortable, but you have to know those realities. So that's the one part. And I think the second part is that training and upskilling, not only of the young person, but of yourself as the employer. Employers and small business owners have very misaligned and overinflated expectations of what it is that young people can and cannot do. So part of your learning and onboarding has to be the tasks that you don't even think about, that in fact start to frustrate you. Yes, a young person can switch on a computer, use Word, use whatever, but you do need to spend an extended period of time building confidence, or extracting the confidence that is already there. So our assumption, and I want to just quickly as I wrap up, come back to what you said about Lucha Lunako. Our tagline is youth have it. And the reason we say it that way is because a lot of the development sector and the youth development sector in particular has framed young people as lacking. So we are always positioned as teachers, knowledge owners, superiors, who are teaching them, giving them, they need something from us. What does it begin to change in your mind if your role is not to create something in someone, but to grow and expand what already exists? Then it becomes a harder task, because your job is exactly as Trevor's work of coaching, which is to grow the potential that already is there, to expand it, to ignite it, to make the young person come alive. And it's a hard job. But if we positioned ourselves more that way, rather than I'm teaching you for the future, but rather thank you for the privilege and the opportunity you provide to me to grow who you already are, it changes so much, you know. And so I think there's some way we ourselves as SMEs have to go in changing our minds and changing our mindsets to assume that it is a privilege for us to work with young people, because there is the greater the investment we make, the greater the dividend we will reap in the future, rather than, I think, in the present, which is where we tend to localize and locate ourselves.
Sure, Nzanande, thank you so much for that very powerful message that I think really, is at the heart of what we hope these conversations to be about, which is really about trying to bridge this massive gap, is often two completely different worlds colliding. And how do we do that? And I think that's, you know, in Daphne's examples is
Have we lost Simone?
Oh, I thought it was me. I think we have lost Simone.
It's our own connection.
There we go.
Simone, you're back. We had lost you.
Sorry about that. I think, what is so interesting for me to hear from what you were saying is it's going against the hierarchy that is often entrenched in a lot of businesses. And so it does require this culture shift, which we know is sometimes very difficult to make. I mean, changing a kind of organizational culture, even if it's a small business, can be difficult work. And so I'd just like to invite other panelists just to comment on what's been said around this urgent need to really understand and work with young people, and not see it as the organization kind of, you know, do it like young people should be so grateful to be here. I'd also really like to do a quick plug for the work of Youth Capital, and really just implore those listening to look at their action plan. It's so refreshing in that it really has been designed and built with young people, and it puts young people's voices front and center. And so it may be a really helpful kind of read for those trying to get a better grasp of some of the realities that young people face when looking and trying to secure employment.
Simone, can I just share something?
Yes.
And Zanandi, what you said resonates so strongly. And you are quite correct. And again, just looking at the industry, it's like I mentioned, prior to the 90s, people who came into the real estate industry, the only qualification you needed was to buy your FFC from the EAB. I think it was like 100 Rand. You didn't need studying, etc. And as a result of that, you had historically white males coming in, opening up real estate franchises and coming up. Over the years, and this is the barriers to entry that I'm talking about, we now have to have qualifications. You need to do a 1-year internship, your NQF4, your NQF5, car, blah, 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 etc., etc. Now, absolutely, we need to have more knowledge in the industry. But what it's doing is keeping more people out. So out of the 57,000 real estate agents in South Africa at the moment, if you look at Black female principal franchisees, there are less than 400.
My goodness.
Less than 400. Now, what I work consistently is to see how we can improve that. And again, I might have certain suggestions, and I'm working with folks to say, okay, how can we do it? What can we do? Can we find people who've got tertiary education? Can we match them with this, etc., etc.? But I cannot be so arrogant as to think I have all the solutions. This is why this dialogue is so important, because we need to be able to, and this is why I open the conversation with individuals in all areas, because a lot of people think, okay, great, so we need to be working in areas that are historically owned and operated by people of color. No, in all areas, okay?
Yes.
What can I do? What is the dialogue? What do you need from me? And to speak to other business owners and to challenge them. If I'm working with another business owner, a service provider, an attorney, or electrician, plumbing, I will ask them, what is your transformation policy? Transformation, diversity, and inclusion. What are you doing? And if you're not, I will choose to work with somebody else. We have to challenge each other and ourselves and continue the conversation, because otherwise the status quo is going to be the status quo.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Just a quick one, Simone. Just as Daphne says that, I think what's really difficult for all of us, and based on that, and it's really a theme, I guess, in my personal life also right now, is to be comfortable with what you've said is good enough. The problem is so large and so expansive that if you say, I'd say yes to this, you're also saying no to something else, which is okay. Exactly what, Daphne, you're a specialist in your field. Must you then devote yourself to 1,000 other things that are not so much in your field? Possibly not, and preferably not, because you say, you know what, this is where I can make the most impact, and I need to sit with the reality that, that's good enough. It might be good enough for now, it might be good enough for a period, but it's moving some version of a needle, and that's possibly the hardest thing to do when a problem is so big and so expansive in its own way, So thank you for that.
Absolutely. And I think, again, where this conversation feels so important is that it's really looking at the impact you have within your own control. So how do you arrive at work, and how do you engage with those who report to you in the office? So it's very personal, it's very within your grasp. I think the other thing, Trevor, I see you unmute, so I will hand over to you in a second, and then one I'd love to get your input as well. I think just to say, so much of the shift is this kind of organizational culture that paints success in a very particular way. And so again, considering it would be really interesting to look at work, and I think a conversation we'd like to pick up going forward is to look at some of the very practical business benefits that Daphne's alluded to, of having a diverse team, of really collaborating and getting information and value from sources that you otherwise perhaps weren't tapping into for whatever reason. Trevor?
Thanks, Simone. Just a quick comment, and I was just resonating with the word you used earlier as urgent, and there's another that insight you gave was so useful around it, because we launched an initiative earlier this year. One of my colleagues, Harry, who founded Action Coach, or brought our franchise into the country, initiated a campaign, I guess you could call it, that we call Everyone Employ One. So a lot of the stats and the reading that he'd been given was that South Africa's unemployment rate overall was 35%, but again, the adjusted or the expanded stats are closer to 46%, but that's overall. And there's another just drilling down on the youth stats where it goes between 62 and 74% of that is youth, or 74% youth unemployment. And the idea around the Everyone Employ One campaign that Harry's been pushing, and we've actually been pushing it collectively around the country, is if you consider what that works out, about 11 million unemployed people across the country. I mean, that's a huge number. That's pretty much the entire population of KwaZulu-Natal, where I'm based, is 11 million people. It's more than the population of a country like Switzerland or Austria is 11 million people. I mean, that's not a small unemployment crisis. That's a huge deal. And as you drill down, that's overall, obviously, you roll it down to the youth, which is where people are wanting, they've got the most energy and they've got these big vision and goals, and we're all born to serve, and we all want to impact in some fashion, and being denied that, regardless of putting food on the table. So the idea on the Everyone Employ One campaign was, if you have 3.5, and obviously the stats will vary between tax registered businesses, etc., but the number we went with was 3.5 million businesses in the country. So the thinking was, if every single business could hire just one person, you've pretty much halved the unemployment rate right there. Now, easier said than done, whether it's just and because people are scared to hire, people don't have the skills to hire. So much as it's the right thing to do for people, for the youth that need these jobs, it's the right thing for businesses. They need people. But I think it's the urgency that a lot of people don't get, is that it's not a problem that's going to get better on its own. People live longer. We have children, there's more, the population grows, and if the economy is not growing as fast, there's problems, if anything, going to get worse unless there's really urgent. And thanks for sharing that, Nzanandi, or everybody. It's just that everybody needs to take a step around it, whatever that step might be. For some people, it's a big step. For some people, it's maybe hiring one person, or if there's a half-day person, maybe you could take that person full day. What little step could be taken? It all makes an impact.
Thank you so much for that, Trevor. I think, connected to that point, and something again that really touches in the heart of these conversations, is that we also acknowledge that there are people who've had bad experiences employing young people, and sometimes you get the wrong fit. But the reasons for that person not performing to your expectations needs to be interrogated, because perhaps therein lies the issue. So perhaps it's a recruitment problem, actually. Perhaps it's not having a very clear job description and the person not really knowing what they're expected to do. Perhaps it's you not understanding some of the barriers that Daphne spoke about that are preventing them from thriving, and not having a relationship where they feel comfortable enough to express those challenges. And so again, that's really, if we have tomorrow millions of jobs available for young people, will they get them and will they stick? And those are some of the things that we're trying to unpack in these conversations, so that when young people are able to access opportunities, they thrive. This is something I know, and I've read up a lot, that you do well. You've been able to develop young people that you work with, and I think your approach is really enlightening. Can you just share with us how you've approached working with people who've come into your business?
Okay. I would like to start off with something that I've experienced, and then I'll just go into what we are doing under Maker Model. So over the years, I've worked for PGR, and I left PGR for about 2 years, just to experience how other South African organizations are doing, and to test what I've learned at PGR is working outside PGR. And I met this young lady who had a great business plan, and she attended a 4 weeks course, and she got funded 50K to start her own business in the township. She got scammed 30K, and she was left with 20. And then she decided to just use that 20 for her personal issues, and she gave up on that. And so that's something triggered on my mind. And I had an administrator who used to work for me at the service station, and I was paying that guy well. And he opted for a 2-year learnership or internship. And he left. I was paying him about 10K, and he went to an internship that was paying him about 3.5, because he was hoping to get employment within government. And 2 years later, he was unemployed. Now I was, that's the experience outside. And then what we do at BGR, which I think it's also gonna touch on what I heard from Trevor, is we develop people. We have a 2-year curriculum that we have developed over the years. And we tested if it was working. And I'm the first graduate to that. So I ran the 2 years, and I was a store coordinator. So when I joined the organization, I had no experience. I dropped out of university. I had no work experience. So I ran that for 2 years. I think I was getting about 3.5K. It was 2014 back then. And then when I was a store coordinator, I was like getting about 12 and above. And that was big for me. And that's 2 years. It's not easy. I mean, it's a journey. Like I said, there's milestones. There's things that you have to do. The first 4 months is, I can just give you guys practical examples of what we have to demonstrate. So like the first month is, can you understand and can you perform all the food production SOPs? You need to know, we sell burgers. You need to know how to make a burger. That's the first thing you need to do on your month 1. Month 2, do you have enough confidence in connecting with customers? Yes, we sell burgers, but can you connect with customers? Because we are all about experience. And then month 3 talks about you understanding the brand promise and customers' expectations, and can you handle customer complaints? Once you do all those things, we give you a certificate and say you are qualified as a hospitalitarian. Now then the journey becomes tough, because now it's 6 months is gone. There's more money now. We're giving you more money. You start as a novice, you become a candidate. The responsibility becomes big. Once it becomes big, you do stuff like till settlements. Can you settle the tills? And you accurate within 5 to 10%. Can you lead the team into passing a store audit? We do an audit to check if the store is clean, the store has enough stock. Are you guys ready to serve customers? Do you understand? Can you perform till settlements and report on variance within 10%? Do you understand profitability? Can you identify the main revenue drivers and cost drivers for the business? Those are the things we teach you, and we check if you are able to do all those things. Can you schedule the team against the store demand? It's a Monday. You know how much you make on a Monday. You know how much you make on a Tuesday. You know how much you make over the weekend. How many people can you schedule? And you must be within the budget. We have a budget. We tell you this is how much you want to pay. And can you schedule all those people and balance it off? So it's like that. Once then you get to a situation where you are in 12 months now, we say here is the P&L of the business. Do you understand what a P&L is? Can you build your own? And you compare it to the actual. Does that correspond, or you just coming up with numbers that you don't know where they're coming from? And all those, it's a curriculum that we've built over the years. And once you are able to do that in 2 years, and we say, okay, cool, now you are a store coordinator, you are ready to become a manager. Should we expand, you're gonna go to another store. But the thing that we celebrate is when rocker mamas, steers come to my store and they take one of my guys. I celebrate. We go through their contract, we help them, we say, go. If things don't work out, come back. We will always have space for you. As long as you leave us in good terms, we are happy for you when you get an opportunity elsewhere. As I am talking to you guys, there is someone who was with us. She's running a big service station. I think it's the biggest in Gauteng on N1. She's a store manager. And every time we chat and we talk, she's very much happy. And that's someone, if things don't work out today, she's been there for 2 years now, she's happy. If things don't work out, she's got a home in here. We've developed, we know what she's capable of as a business. And we really celebrate when people are like, What if I develop, Trevor said it, what if I develop people and then now somebody comes and steal my people? We celebrate, because there's millions and millions of young South Africans out there who are unemployed. And we take people without experience. We have experience, it's okay, but don't compare us with anyone. Be willing to learn. And that's one thing that we do as BGR. So what I would like to see changing in the country, oh, sorry, after that 2 years, you run 3 years again. And that 3 years, you are being taught on how to become an owner operator. That means now you will not have shares into the business, but you will have a 50% share on the profit. So somebody comes and fund a store, and then now me, Wam, I've got my own business, Toilet Services, which is like I've got a tender. BGR has given me a tender. They give me a store with everything inside, and they say, hire your own people, run this business. As long as you are within what we want. Every month we check it. So I don't have an employment contract, rather I have an SLA, which I have to deliver every month. I've got management accounts every month that I look at. Those are the things I did not know 5 years ago. So if one day I can win lotto, because I've been trying to get funds and nobody's funding me, I've got a great CV, but I've got no assets. So basically, if I can win lotto one day, I can open a whole lot of businesses, and I can promise you that those businesses will be successful, because I'm competent and I am capable of running a business through this maker model. So what I am trying to say is, Nizenande said they can fund. They've got young people that they can say, okay, the donor will donate 3.5 grand or 4 grand, whatever amount. And as a small business owner, that's a relief to you on your labor. But then that should come with, what are you gonna do for that person? Let's not fight unemployment only. Let us talk about entrepreneurship. That is something we talk less about in this country. We are trying to fight unemployment for over years. And I tell you, from now it's 2020, we will spend the next century fighting unemployment. We will never solve the problem. Let us try and get Black young South Africans into business owners. And you can develop many ways. If somebody can fund this store, I am not going to be responsible for the 3.5 million. BGR will be responsible. And I have to deliver to make sure that BGR pays that person their money. And if they pay that money and I make profit, I have 50% guaranteed to me. If the business is 100,000 profit, 50K, that's a whole lot of money. I can invest that money, open my own business in a township, hire more people. And if those people, I run them into this 2-year program, they're going to have their own businesses as well and hire more people. And we are fighting unemployment, and we are fighting to get more entrepreneurs.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Wam. I mean, it's such a, we've dropped the link in the chat for people to go learn more about the Maker movement. I think it's just a really great example of how quite an explicit learning journey towards real agency and financial freedom can work in quite a short space of time. I mean, 5 years is a really incredible short space of time to have traveled the journey you've traveled. I know we are unfortunately now out of time, and before we do close, I just want to ask each panelist if they can share what is the one takeaway that you would like for people to have from this conversation today. We've covered a lot, and there's been a lot of kind of big concepts that we've talked through, but for you, what is the one thing that you would like people to walk away with? Daphne, we can start with you.
Gosh, there's so much I'm digesting as well, so it's difficult to come up, I think, with just one. But I think for business owners, when you look at employing, open the dialogue and have a conversation with the person that you are speaking to, whether it is about training, whether it is about what they're looking for in employment. Because, you know, that folks will often say an employer is taking a chance on an employee, and an employee is taking just as much of a chance. You both need to be learning, gaining, and receiving. And I would say to business owners, keep the dialogue open, Try to put your perceptions to one side and just know this is somebody who's going to join your team. And yes, as Trevor said, build your business. Yes, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Daphne. Ms. Nande.
Sure. Yeah, I would say the main thing I'd circle back to is largely around do use and leverage the tools that are available to alleviate what can feel like the burden of employment, but can allow it to be the responsibility of employment and then development, as Wham so well put it. So find ways to educate yourself, understand what's available, and do use those. They alleviate a lot of pressure.
Thank you, Ms. Nande. And Trevor.
Thanks, Simone. I think the two different sides really is, big businesses is not often a money issue. It's especially in terms of the entry level, getting people that start up in their career. But for a lot of smaller businesses, it very often is the cash flow. So, I mean, we ran an internship program for years in my business, and I'm a small business myself. And the first time we actually were approached, I think it was by CEDA, we were running an internship program, and they had said, would you want to take on an intern? So absolutely, it made sense, and they paid a stipend. And the way it was marketed is you actually get a free employee, was the way, because it's such a lovely win, a business that needs it and a person that needs it. When we saw what the stipend was, we actually added in and paid more. But yeah, most people are working to would work for less than the stipend because people want that foot start or that head start in the business. So I think for people to leverage those opportunities out there, the internships, the Yes Youth program, would be great to hear more about that. And Nizananda, if you don't mind, maybe you could send out more details for people, because for the people that are interested, but the cash flow is the issue, for them to know how to access all these different tools where it won't break the bank. And I mean, from the first time we ran internships, we just kept doing it every year, even if there wasn't an internship available. Every year we would take an intern, and then at the end of the year, help her find a job, usually with one of my clients. So most of our interns have now gone on and joined other businesses and grown their careers that way. So it's just a lovely place to start. But yeah, those are my 2 cents. Thanks for having us on.
Thanks so much, Trevor. I'm going to get back to your point on putting contacts out for people. But before we do that, one last comments from you.
I just want to say we need to come together. From people who are saying we've got a YES program, to people who are saying we've got internship programs, and to people who are saying I've got a small business, I am willing to grow. And let's come together, use those platforms, use the finances that are available to help young businesses to develop business leaders and business owners rather than employees. And we can use those funds to franchise all those small businesses and franchise it to those young people that are willing to learn and become business owners. And in that way, I think we will be able to fight unemployment, and young people are gonna be excited, and they will start, they will spend more time because they know one day I will be a business owner rather than I'll be the best griller you can ever find in the country. That's what I wanted to close.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mom. I guess from our side, we just want to say a huge thank you to our panelists. It's been such an enriching and valuable conversation, and I'm so glad we've recorded all of this. We will be sharing the recording after this. Thank you to everyone who's joined us today. Our next conversation will be happening next month, and we will be focusing on some of the incentives that Zinande has mentioned. JobStarter have actually put together with some of Little Nako's help a skills development toolkit that looks at some of the opportunities that exist for small businesses. So we'll be going through that in a bit more detail. Please do follow us on LinkedIn just to look out for notifications on that next event.